Richard and Judy Book Club podcast, exclusive to WHSmith.
Hello everyone and welcome to another chapter in the Richard and Judy Book Club.
And be prepared for action as we bring you a novel to grab you by the throat.
If I could sum it up in one word, it would be gripping.
We'll be introduced to Edinburgh's latest detective inspector. And we make some intriguing discoveries.
We certainly do. We meet the author who knows a thing or two about Highland cattle as well. Stay with us, discover more about James, and make sure you get lots of extra bits and make the most of some fantastic offers online and in store if you stock up on the Richard and Judy suggestions at WHSmith.
Fill your bookshelves with our recommended reads in the Richard and Judy Summer Collection, exclusive to WHSmith.
Right then, Jude, the first novel from James Oswald on the book club, and come on, it's a cracker, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely loved it. And what an introduction to the life of Tony McLean. A crime thriller with a hint of the supernatural. Right up my street. I just really couldn't resist it. They're absolutely both my kind of really favourite genres. But tell us about it, James, because it's all set. It features Inspector McLean.
Yeah.
This is the first of a series of novels about Inspector McLean. He's based in Edinburgh, right?
Yes.
He's a nice guy. You know, you can't help but warm to him, but he gets caught up in this series of absolutely horrible and seemingly pointless murders, and this supernatural element to do with a murder which took place 60 years ago, which seems to be a kind of ritualistic murder connected with some kind of cult or whatever. Tell us about that.
Well, it starts off, as you say, with this the uncovering of a body that's been walled up in a mansion, in the basement of a mansion in Edinburgh, and that appears to be a ritualistic killing that's happened 60 years in the past. And as Tony McLean, Detective McLean, is investigating this, some very eerily similar murders start happening in the current time. But they appear to solve these murders. The killers of these individuals are found relatively quickly, and obviously the bosses are very happy that the crimes have been solved quickly. It keeps everything on the books nice and
because these are prominent individuals who are being murdered.
They're prominent city individuals, but Tony McLean is not convinced that they've got to the truth, and he's a bit of a loner, not complete loner in the mould of your usual detective.
Yes.
But he thinks for himself.
He thinks for himself, and he goes against what his boss is telling him to do, and digs deeper into these murders because he's sort of haunted by the murder, the 60-year-old murder,
which was of a young girl.
A young girl, yes.
Yeah. And without being too gruesome about it, that there are certain things arranged around her body,
yes,
which make it obviously clear that it was, as you say, a ritualistic murder. Right. So, I mean, just explain to us how he makes the link between that and the murders that are going on in Edinburgh around him.
Well, it slowly comes together as the various the current day murders are investigated. That although the murderers are found very quickly, the murdered people are actually all linked together. They're in their past. They're from about 60 years ago. As it turns out, they all served together in the army in the war.
Yeah.
And but that doesn't get uncovered for quite a long time.
No, you're very gentle in that. Yeah. It's layer by layer, but always just enough to kind of keep us peaked.
Well, I quite like the idea of slowly unpicking the truth, even though, as far as the bosses are concerned, the cases are closed. So McLean has to kind of do this digging on the side.
But there's always something else that he does.
Just
something else that justifies him carrying on. Edinburgh is a wonderful setting for it, I have to say. I mean, Edinburgh is sort of known as the haunted city, and there are the ghost tours and all the rest of it. Did you set it in Edinburgh? Obviously, it's a great location in itself, but because it is a natural place to think of a supernatural occurrence.
It is. I mean, I treat Edinburgh as one of the characters in the book.
Yes,
I mean, the setting is perfect for that sort of thing. It's also one of the few cities that I know well enough to, having lived there for a long time, to set a book in. So yes, and I think setting is very important to a book like that, and Edinburgh does with it's got a very bloody and violent history, and there's many layers to it as well. Yeah. Things being built on top of other things.
Yeah, and also Edinburgh is, I mean, certainly to a visitor when you go to Edinburgh, it is a spectacularly beautiful city, but there's also a certain strong grimness about it.
Yes, there is.
You know, it's the colour of the stone, the kind of, and everything is quite monolithic. Everything is really big.
Well, they used to call it Aldreeky as well, didn't they?
That's right,
because everything was black with smoke.
That's right.
Yes, I mean, it can be very, very grim. And you've got parts of Edinburgh which are very genteel and posh. I mean, where Tony McLean's grandmother lives, for instance, the very posh part of Edinburgh.
Morningside.
It's sort of Morningside Grange area, and that's cheek by jowl with really quite nasty places as well. So it's all jostled together. Yeah.
Now the supernatural element, we decided before we had this chat with you, we didn't want to go into that too much because it's so delicate. You know, you don't want to give anything away. But how did you approach that? Because Judy's written a ghost story, and you know I always think, and you love supernatural books, as you've said. I always think that's the most difficult thing for somebody to write. I'd never go near it because you have to go through this tricky process of getting people to suspend their disbelief and at the same time do the opposite. You know, is it or isn't it? Is it or is? How did you approach it, and why did you just think it was an important component to have a supernatural dimension to the story?
Well, I've always liked the idea of having, you know, just in a world where, like here, ghosts don't exist, to then have one detective who actually sort of can see that they do, and at first he's very reluctant to accept any of this as possible, but the question that's that then when he does finally come to the conclusion that there might be something in it, he's left with the problems of what to do about it, and you know how to write the crime report at the end.
Where's the evidence? Exactly.
Where's the evidence? And that's an ongoing dilemma because I keep this subtle supernatural influence ongoing in the next two books.
Because this is the start of a series.
This is the start of a series. It's
involving
And did you plan that when you began writing the first one? Did you think, I'm going to write a series about this guy?
Well, I started off writing a series of short stories, and Natural Causes started off its life as a short story. So I'd done quite a series of those. There's half a dozen of those, and then I did always have in mind that it would be a series if people were interested in it.
Oh, they'll be interested. Oh, no, don't have no fear of that.
Didn't you put this on the internet?
Yes,
I got 100,000 hits.
I initially self-published it. I started self-publishing. I tried self-publishing about 10 years ago, before Kindle and all that happened, and it didn't work terribly well. Then when I wrote that book, and it didn't really get anywhere with publishers, so I decided to self-publish it. It was just last year, actually.
Right.
And with the advent of the e-readers and things, it's much easier to do. But yes, it took off. I think I shifted about 350,000 copies of that. And then the interest that drummed up, obviously, got interest from the publishers.
Publishing is so fickle, isn't it? You know, I mean, there are so many bestsellers out there now, and yourself included, I'm absolutely certain, who were rejected and rejected and rejected.
It's not that it's fickle; it's just hard.
Well, no, but I mean, either a book's a good book or it's not. And there are many good books which took lots of attempts to kick the door in to get published, which then became bestsellers, and that made the writers happy, and it made the publishers happy. I mean, I can't think of a unified theory to explain this phenomenon, that great books sometimes don't get published in the face of their obvious attractiveness to the readership. Do you?
Well, I can see it from the publisher's point of view. It's difficult, particularly with the crossing of the genres. That's that it's difficult to
the supernatural
and crime can put a lot of readers off. But going down the self-publishing route and showing so many people have obviously bought it and liked it.
I mean, I know that in your kind of day job, you are a farmer in Scotland, a livestock farmer. How did the interest in crime and supernatural stuff begin? Has it always been in your head, or?
Yes, I mean, I've been writing for years. I mean, a lot longer than I've been farming. My mum tells a story of my uncle when I was about 4. told her that I'd grow up to be a writer. It's probably because of the tall stories I used to tell. I mean, she has literary connections as well, and she was given her first cat by Dorothy L. Sayers.
No, really?
Yeah, it's called Harriet, after Harriet Vane.
Oh, gosh.
Dorothy L. Sayers was a friend of my grandfather's. So there's a bit of a history there.
Yes.
But no, I've always loved writing.
Where do you find the time? Because Judy calls it a day job, but as the grandson of a farmer, I know that farming is a nighttime job as well. And you've got lambs being lambed at the moment.
This time of the year, I mean, obviously the last 2-3 weeks when we've been lambing, I've not been doing any writing because I do get quite a lot of ideas when you're sitting in the lambing sheds waiting for a ewe to get on with it. It's usually nasty ways to kill sheep.
How funny.
Because as Richard said, my first book was essentially a ghost story set in Cornwall, and I've been asked so often, do you believe in ghosts? Do you?
I remain unconvinced. I don't really believe as such, I think.
No.
I'm open to the possibility that there could be ghosts. But,
yeah, and it's great, isn't it, to have that freedom to let your imagination.
Exactly. I think as a vehicle for writing a story, they're brilliant.
Brilliant. Well, I absolutely love this, and I can't wait for the next one. It's called
The Book of Souls.
The Book of Souls. The same guy, Tony McLean, and the same kind of amalgamation.
Yeah.
I've got
it looks more. It delves into more of his backstory.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's due later this summer, July.
July the 4th.
Fascinating. I can't wait.
But read Natural Causes first, folks, because it's a great primer for what's to follow. Lovely to meet you, James, and we'll let you get back to your sheep.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Get great tips on how to write your own bestseller with exclusive content on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Richard and Judy Book Club. James Oswald's Natural Causes.
I have a fold of Highland cows, and yes, I was when the news came through about the book deal. I was actually out in a field in a hailstorm mending a fence, and my mobile phone went off. I answered it, and my agent telling me that Penguin had won the auction for the rights. I kind of thought, what am I doing standing in this hailstorm? No, it was a over the moon moment. It was absolutely brilliant. So I've been writing for a very long time, a lot longer than I've been farming on my own. I only took over the farm a few years back, But it is the dream come true. It's a completely unbelievable over-the-moon situation. Of course, I self-published the books to start with, and I thought that would just be, maybe shift a few copies. Ended up selling 350,000 copies of Natural Causes, which is what brought it to the attention of Penguin. So that all happened basically in the last year. So it's all happened very quickly, and I'm still kind of reeling from it.
I really like James Oswald. He was such a thoughtful, quite surprising character, actually. Not at all as I was expecting.
No.
I love the fact that he spends half his time delivering lambs in the spring snows of Scotland and the Highlands.
The rest of the time writing spooky novels about crime and horrible murders.
And as he said, coming up with ideas for them as he's waiting for a ewe to deliver at 4 a.m. Extraordinary.
It's a very good book.
I can't wait for the next one, can you?
The next one is called The Book of Souls.
Yep.
And it also features Detective Inspector Tony McLean. So this is the beginning of a long series, which I think is great because, to me, I love crime thrillers, my favourite genre, and another favourite genre of mine is ghosts and the supernatural and strange things like that. And this book really, Natural Causes, really combines the two. And it's a cracking read. There's lots of bodies in it, lots of rather horrible murders in it, and the suggestion that there's something really ancient and evil in the streets of Edinburgh that is supernaturally behind what's going on.
But what gives me great confidence in the series to come is that he's blended the supernatural and crime fiction so perfectly. He's not overstepped the mark, he's not gone too far and made you think, oh, no, that could never happen, which is always the danger in writing, as you know, about the supernatural, ghost stories, whatever. You've got to be so careful. It's got to be very carefully judged. He can clearly do it. He knows where the parameters are. So I think future books are going to be great. Can't wait. Anyway, Judy, I know you love to hear my opinion.
Nothing I like more.
I know, my pet, but it's time to hear what everybody else thinks. Here's what you're reading from the Richard and Judy Book Club, exclusive to WHSmith.
From the Richard and Judy Book Club, I've read Fault Line by Robert Goddard. I thought it was really good. It's not his best one, but it was certainly very gripping. It ebbs and flows quite a lot. It's set in Cornwall and the Isle of Capri, and it's a very long story, and it starts with a lad who's 18, finishes when he's 60, he goes backwards and forwards in time a little bit as he unfolds the story. But what's good about Robert Goddard is the twists and turns that he puts into the plot is very, very interesting, and it just keeps you just know something's coming up and you're just waiting for it, but you can't guess what it is, which is really good.
I'm very excited to read The House of Silk by Anthony Horowitz. The new Sherlock Holmes novel. I've been waiting for a long time to read something new about Sherlock Holmes. I love period dramas. I'm
a member of the Raleigh Vineyard Book Club, and from the Richard and Judy book list, I'd like to read The Guilty One, just because it just sounds really intriguing, sort of the mystery side of things. The description sort of really captured me.
Richard and Judy recommending great books for you.
Truth and Consequences feature significantly on our next read, The Light Between Oceans.
For just a moment, her mind tricked her into hearing an infant's cry on the early morning breeze. Impossible. From this side of the island, there was only vastness, all the way to Africa.
M.L. Stedman tells all about her novel when we join you on the next Richard and Judy Book Club audio download. Until then...
Can't wait. In the meantime, why not catch up with some of our other titles, or share your thoughts and opinions with us? Which reminds me, Judy, did I ever give you my opinions on the Big Bang Theory? Now, I do know that physicists think that, and there are some...
Tell us what titles you've enjoyed on the Richard and Judy Book Club. Find us on Facebook/Richard and Judy Book Club. Or tweet us at WHSmith Co UK.